Hey guys, today we're going to be changing the brakes in my F-150. We're going to be doing the front brakes on this truck. We're going to show you specifically the front left. Since we're doing the front brakes, we're going to make sure the parking brake is on. If you're doing the back brakes, what you'll do is you'll place 2 wheel chocks under the front wheels so the truck can't move at all once you have it jacked up. So the first step is to jack the truck up, get it off the ground. So we have the jack here that comes standard in all vehicles. Some of them are different, some are bottle jacks. This is pretty simple. You just turn it like this to lift it up, and you want to put it under the frame or under the axle depending on your car. Since this car's a little taller, we're going to put it under the axle, and then once we have it up in the air, we're going to slide this jack stand under it just for added safety in case the mechanical jack fails. This is just an added safety precaution. It does not come standard, so you can get it at any kind of hardware store or anything. It's a great tool to have. So I'm gonna slip this under here, put it on me. Okay guys, what I'm doing now is I am loosening the lug nuts before I get the tire off the ground. So what I'm gonna do is just spin the lug nuts like this just to break them free while the weight of the vehicle is still on the tire, so that way the tire doesn't move while I'm trying to loosen the lug nuts. So I'm just gonna loosen them a little bit because the weight of the vehicle is still on the tire. You don't want the tire to come off. So you just gotta give them one good turn each, and you're good to go. Okay, the next step is to completely jack the vehicle off the ground. Remember to have your parking brake set if you're doing the front brakes, and to have your chocks on the front wheels if you're doing the back brakes. So we're just going to go until the tire's a couple inches off the ground, and then we're going to place the jack stand under the frame. Okay, so now I've got the jack stand under the frame. Remember, this is just it's a precautionary measure. So we're going to get the jack stand up in its tallest setting that it'll fit in under the frame, and then let off the jack a little bit just so the weight of the vehicle is on the jack stand instead of the mechanical jack. Okay, so now we're going to completely remove the lug nuts, and you can do this with the supplied lug wrench that comes with your vehicle. But we have this impact driver just to kind of speed things up. It's not necessary, but it's just a great way to get the project done a little bit faster. So now we'll remove the tire. You want to keep all your lug nuts together just so you don't lose any of them in the process. Okay. Caliper. So there's 2 pieces to the caliper. These are the pins right here, and it slides on these pins when you apply your brakes. It slides and it squeezes the pads against the rotor to apply pressure and create friction in order to stop your wheels from turning. So the next step is to remove the caliper. We're going to do this by removing this bolt right here and this bolt right here. There's usually only 2, so we have a 13mm socket wrench. It'll go right here, and we're going to use this other wrench to stop this bolt from turning while we loosen it. And we're going to do this for both of the bolts. They're removed. I'm going to put them in a safe place just so we don't lose them. And the next step is to pop the caliper off. You can use a flathead screwdriver or a crowbar, some kind of pry bar like I'm using. I'm just going to slip it right here and just slowly pull it away from the rotor. Once you have it off, don't drop it because it has this hose connected to it. You don't want to break that. Just sit it up here somewhere safe where it's not going to fall. And next we have the pads, which are right here. So now the pads have to come off. These are the brake pads right here. Like I said before, the caliper squeezes the pads against the rotor to stop the vehicle. So these pads here just pop right out of this caliper mount right here. Some vehicles are different. Some are inside the caliper when you take them off. We're just going to use this crowbar to pry them right off. And you want to take note of which side's which, because sometimes they are different, sometimes they're the same. Just take note of which one's which and then compare them against your new brake pads to make sure you're putting the right ones on. Same for this side. Just pop it right off. Okay, now it's time to reinstall your new brake pads. So some will come with new clips. The clips are right here and right here. Ours didn't, so we're gonna reuse the old ones. Again, just make sure that the old clips match the new clips from side to side. They could vary. And some vehicles will take grease right here on these pins. This vehicle has a closed rubber seal system, so we don't have to apply new grease, and you can see they move easily in and out. So these ones are good to go. Just make sure yours moves smoothly like this. You don't want any brake locks up or anything like that. So we're going to take the inside pad first and place it right there in the clip and click that side in. Now we have the outside pad. Set it right in the bottom clip and then slide it right in. Just make sure that it's up against the rotor correctly. So your new brake pads are obviously thicker than your old worn out brake pads. Therefore, you know, the brakes are on a hydraulic system. So as the brakes wear, the hydraulic fluid pushes these pressure points on the caliper out to accommodate for the pad wear and keep them tight against the rotor. So what we have to do is take a C-clamp or any kind of wood clamp or large pair of pliers or vice grips and put it on the rotor, the caliper, sorry, just like this. And then simply apply pressure, just real slow so you don't give the hydraulic system any problem. Okay, so now that we have the caliper pressed in, we're gonna remove our clamp. And then make sure the hose is still straight with no twist or anything in it. Set it back over the new brake pads. Slide it in and get it lined up with the bolt holes. Make sure everything's on there correctly, nice and tight. Then we're gonna take these slide pin bolts and reinstall them where they were before. Just get them started in there. So again, take your 13mm wrench or whatever size your vehicle is and just tighten these back down. Don't have to get them super tight, just nice and snug. So now that we have the caliper back on and ready to go, we're gonna replace the tire. So we just gotta get that up on the lug nuts. Just like that, and then we'll get the lug started on there. So now that we have the tire back on, all the lug nuts torqued down properly, we're going to, first what we'll do is we'll raise the mechanical jack, and then we will take the tension off of the jack stand right here. So we already have the mechanical jack raised a little bit, so we're just gonna lower this by pulling the lever up. It drops down, slide this out, place it out of the way, and then we will lower the mechanical jack all the way down until the vehicle's weight is back on the tire. Now we have the jack removed, placed out of the way. Now that the weight of the vehicle is back on the tire and the tire can't move, we're just gonna make sure all the lug nuts are nice and torqued down before we drive. Okay, all good and tight. Before you go and drive anywhere, what you wanna do is just pump the brake pedal a few times until it's nice and firm, because we used that clamp to push the fluid back into the reservoir from the caliper. So just pump the brake pedal a few times, make sure it's tight, and before you go and drive, just make sure, you know, go a few miles an hour, make sure the brakes are working well.